Movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video. Listen up.
It's Movie Time. It's produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to broadcast shows Fridays at 4:01 and 8:01 p.m. Read reviews and listen to shows online on WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm K G Kline.
and this is It's Movie Time. Ken, it's good to be back from Italy. There's an awful lot going on in the world, and it's good to be back here into our little highly announced podcast and regular broadcast. And I think we ought to pick a movie that's going to be controversial.
Well, we're going to take you from Italy straight to Iraq in 2006, courtesy of Alec Garland, one of our favorite directors.
Yes.
If you recall, a year ago, about this same time, Garland released a movie called Civil War that I think was one of my favorites of the year, and I think it was one of your favorites too, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and years ago, Ex Machina.
Ex Machina, and before that, 28 Days Later.
And we've got another one coming up 28
years later.
Oh,
Yes.
I know.
Different director this
Alex
time.
Garland is a cool guy, and he has a co-director on this one.
He does, Ray Mendoza.
Oh, well, I haven't heard of him before.
Now, we did hear of him in Civil War. He was the military advisor for Civil War, especially for the scenes at the end when they're storming the White House. He's a former Navy SEAL, which puts him just about as high up the military ladder as you can get, at least with regard to training and expertise in his field. So Garland, when he was working on Civil War, Garland asked him if he knew any interesting stories of being a Navy SEAL that they could perhaps develop into a film. And he specifically asked for something that could be done in under 2 hours so that he could tell the whole story in the span of a movie without doing a lot of jumping.
I don't know if we've announced the title. Warfare?
It's called Warfare.
Yeah. Ken, I'm ambivalent.
Okay. I'm very curious of your opinion,
Yeah,
because I know you are very high on Civil War.
Yes, I was. And Civil War had a narrative.
Yes, it did.
And it had several components and interesting characters and interesting possibilities as to actually where Garland was going with it. He has a gift for being neutral, so that even in that one, we didn't quite know, except when you get toward the end.
It was a movie that he tried to be apolitical and really focused the story on the cameramen and the press, without getting into the politics, but boy did he portray the future,
Well,
so we won't get into that.
No, but I'll tell you, you're making me think, war has its own politics.
It certainly does.
You know, you don't have to see, I think the one thing you told me is that when you had first seen it and you had recommended it to me, I thank you for that, was that it wasn't going to make a statement, but when you live as you do for the half day or however we are at this little scene, in this Iraqi town, in this poor building with a family, and with they're being attacked by bad boys, and this group of Navy SEALs? Yes, Navy SEALs, right,
yes.
are being attacked. You know, it's hard to figure out what's going on. All right, I mean, I know what's going on. They're defending themselves.
The fog of war, and this is what impressed me about the movie, is Garland doesn't glamorize the movie, and he also does something I'm not sure I've ever seen any director do before with a war film. He doesn't do time compression, and what I'm referring to is most war films take place over the span of several days, but they're condensed, obviously, into a 2-hour movie. That's compressing time. It's called time compression.
And that's what movies do generally.
You have to.
Sure.
Because every producer wants every penny they spend to be on screen. You want action. You want constant action. As the life coach on the commercial says, they can't tolerate the silence. So there has to be something going on in movies all the time. Well, Garland breaks from that mold with this movie. The incident that he's depicting took an hour and about 20 minutes to take place. So he shows the movie in an hour and 20 minutes. He shows you it's basically the entire thing that happened as if the camera was right there in the room the whole time. But what he does that's so unique is if there's 5 minutes of downtime, he doesn't fill that, he doesn't cut. He lets us see 5 minutes of downtime. And you're seeing, you know something's going to happen because they wouldn't have made a movie about it if something didn't happen. But the tension is building, but you're feeling the same tension that the soldiers felt. You're getting this sense of authenticity to the film that as the time is going by, as nothing's happening, you know you're just waiting. And they show what each soldier is doing as these downtimes. One soldier's looking out the window, one soldier is on the radio, one soldier is looking at the other soldiers to see what they're doing.
And as you're describing it, I would like to say this is not a movie for everybody, because you have to be patient. There's very little talk. Naturally, they can't talk to each other because they can't reveal their place within this building.
That's
so
right.
So it's a very quiet and almost depressing, it's a dangerous, very dangerous place. But I contend here, Ken, that unless you're a cinephile such as you are, it's not a movie that's going to please most people because actually nothing happens. It does happen, but nothing
major happens.
Yeah,
right.
Ordinarily we romanticize war in one way or the other. This is not romanticized.
This is not romantic. This is a movie by soldiers for soldiers. People who are in the military, who have served, are going to see this movie and tell their families, go see this movie with me. This is what I went through. Garland says that this movie was written by memory. They interviewed all the surviving members of this SEAL team and they asked them to write down how they remembered this incident, and then based on all of their different perspectives, they attempted to be as absolutely accurate to the original incident as they possibly could. If there's nothing in the movie that didn't happen, and there's nothing that did happen that isn't in the movie, is how Garland describes it.
There are some surprises. For instance, the use of jet planes to clear the street and to send up some dust to give them some cover.
Flying down the street near the speed of sound, causing a lot of shock.
The ground.
Yeah.
It's just something I'd never thought about before.
They refer to it as a show of force, which is designed to rupture the eardrums of the enemies and drive them away from the street.
Yes, and these brown, whatever they call the tanks.
The Bradleys.
The Bradleys.
Yes.
Are marvelous little pieces. They lose one to an IED. And that's nothing you can do about that. It's just a bomb that was placed right there that blew the hell out of it. But they had one or two others that they were calling on so that they could take away the one guy, Elliot, who had really had massive injury. Now, if you want to have a really cinema verite experience, take a look at some of the shots on the street and see the continual leg in the middle of the shot. There's a leg, that's all it is.
Without going into too many details, one of the people that does end up getting killed in the film is there's body parts left all over the street, and as the firefight is going on, the soldiers are running past these body parts, and you keep thinking in your mind, isn't somebody going to stop and pick this up and toss it into the Bradley and take it back to America?
Yes.
But the point is that no, there's a middle of a battle going on. The last thing they're thinking about is somebody's leg laying there on the side of the road. As Garland said, everything that's in the movie happened. Nothing was added, but nothing was taken away. And there's even one guy, a scene that's rather shocking, where this injured fellow, his legs are nearly blown off. He'll probably never walk again. And this soldier comes in and starts kicking him and saying, "Hey, come on, guy, get up, we got fighting to do." And you're thinking to yourself, what in the world? But it's there because it really happened.
Yeah, and it's almost, I think as you were alluding to, it's almost minute by minute.
It is exactly time set. So when they're on the radio and they say the Bradleys will be there in 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes that you sit through in the movie before the Bradleys show up. All of the time is real. There's no cutaway and then cut back and suddenly 10 minutes have passed. No. If 10 minutes pass, it's 10 minutes on film. And again, a producer is going to pull their hair out saying, you're spending all this money on film footage when nothing's happening. But that is the point with this movie, is that these soldiers had to sit through that, and Garland wants to make sure you sit through it so you get the authenticity. It's one of the most authentic war films I have ever seen.
Yeah, and I thought that at some point you might bring a young man who is looking to join the Army and have him look at this and say, is this really what you want? Yeah, we need them.
We need them, and it's hard enough to get people to recruit for the Army as it is to show, but to show them this.
Show them this.
Yeah.
And I believe, without knowing, I believe it looks authentic. It looks cinema verite. I think the politics here comes in the communication with the people sitting behind their desks making the orders about sending the planes or sending the Bradleys. And what there's an undercurrent there of politics in that they really don't want to lose another one of these Bradleys.
They don't want to lose another one, and the people that control the Bradleys have probably a little more power than these 8 guys sitting in this outpost. And one of the ones, without giving anything away, one of the ones also lies on the radio in order to get 2 Bradleys to come back, and is in the movie because it really happened.
I think the only actor I could identify was Will Poulter.
Yeah, and this is a good idea for doing a war film because you don't want big names and known faces distracting you and saying, oh, I don't want, Tom Hanks to die, so we won't want him. But in this movie, these are all unknowns, and the whole point is you're looking at them as the characters, not as the actor.
Well, K G Kline, I knew you'd help me out on this one. As you can tell, I am still ambivalent about it. I'm ambivalent about it as entertainment. I'm not ambivalent about it as accuracy. If you want to know what our young people go through to protect other people, then take a look at this. It'll.
And perhaps the one point that may make a strong impression on people and make them want to join the military is the camaraderie. Because at the end of the day, these soldiers train together and they are there to support one another. Each soldier will lay down their life in order to protect the rest of their squad. And you see that in this movie. You see the way that they can communicate without even talking to each other. They all know what their duties are. They're all on spot doing them, and there's very little talk because they don't need to talk. They know what they're there to do, and they're so well trained that they can do it without having to describe to one another what they're doing.
Thank you. Now, if you want more of this, this is like, I'm advising you to go see the movie. I'm advising you to go listen to our podcast, which is backed up, and you have to go to WCBE.org to hear it. If you can take 20 more minutes of this, then you better go there, because Ken is awfully articulate about this, and I'm just going like, I don't know what I just saw. But I think it's good.
With John DeSando